Hey everybody, welcome to our second lesson in sinusoidals. Pretty short unit, there's only 3 lessons in this unit. We've already looked at the graphs of sinusoidals a little bit, and we know that again, a sinusoidal is a wave. It does something like that. So your job today is to do some investigations, and we're going to be working with the equation of a sinusoidal, which looks like this. Or we talked about that on our first day in the unit opener. Looks like that. Okay, your job today really is I'm going to give you the graph and you have to make this equation. Or what I'm really looking for you to do is to say, okay, what does A do to my graph? What does B do to my graph? What does C do? What does D do? We're going to find out that C isn't that important in 30-2. It's actually really complicated. It's more of something we do in 30-1. Okay, so get your calculators ready. Let's take a look at this lesson. Now, first things first, in this unit, you need to be in radian mode. We've already talked about that. So make sure now that you're already in radian mode. I would also change my window settings as well so that my window matches each of the little graphs here that you're going to be drawing. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is on my TI, I'm going to go and I'm going to go to window. So first off, I'm going to make sure I'm in degree mode, which I know I am. And then what I'm going to do, so I'm going to go degree, make sure I'm in radian mode. There I am. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to window, and most of our window settings for this one are going to go from 0 to 2 pi. Okay, scale, I might change my scale to pi divided by 2. And again, you can do that right there. Why? I think most of our graphs today should be fine if we go between maybe -3 and 3, but again, it'll depend on the graph, okay? So you'll have to play around with that each time and whatever. Okay, so clear everything out that I have. Your most basic sine graph, so you're going to compare everything back to sine x. Just like that. That's your most basic graph. I really need you to know what that looks like. There it is. So if we go back and look at our book here, here is the most basic sine graph right here. Okay, and as we go through this, you're going to figure out what A, B, C, and D do, like I've already talked about. All right, so this is my most basic sine graph. You should have this guy here. I don't know if you really need to memorize it, right? You've got a graphing calculator, you can always graph it. Okay, but the important stuff I really want to highlight is the median line. So remember, the median line is that line right in the middle. I am begging you to always draw that line. Please always draw this line. This is the first thing you do. What you're going to find out in this lesson is everything comes from that line. So that's my median line right there. Amplitude, well, amplitude is how far up or down from the median line to the max or the min. So that's right there. Okay, the period, to find the period, I'm going to look at how far it takes until the graph repeats. So I'm saying, look, it starts on up, it goes down, and there it is crossing right there. So there's my period right there, that distance right there. So that's 2 pi or 6.28. Now, the horizontal shift isn't super important in 30-2. Okay, it's really not. But the only question I really need to ask you here is a yes or no. Is it a yes or is it a no? So this one is a no because you see right here, I'm highlighting it. It starts on my median line on the y-axis going up. So this thing has not been shifted. That's it. It's a yes or no. So your job right now, you're going to hit pause on the video. And what you're going to do is you're going to graph each of these 3 more in your calculator. I've drawn the next one for you. And your job is to figure out what's happening as I change this value right here to the graph. I'm hoping by the 4th graph you can tell me what it does. And then there's a rule at the bottom of the page. So I want you to try all these graphs on pause, then come back to the video, and let's see if everything matches up. See you in a couple minutes. Have fun. Okay, amigos, you've tried all these graphs. So I'm going to start at the first one here that was already drawn for us. Look at that beautiful graph I drew for you there. Okay, so this one's drawn for me. So now what I'm going to do is, the first thing I'm always going to do, I'm begging you, I'm going to draw that in. That's my median line. It's halfway between the top and the bottom. It's the average of the max and the min. So now I come and I start to analyze this information. So it says my median line's at 1. Okay, like it. Amplitude is 1. That's right there. Bang, bang. That's the second thing I get you to find. Period is 2 pi. Starts here, ends over here. And has it been shifted left or right? No, because it starts on the median line and the y-axis going up. All right, so what have I noticed from this first graph? Well, I see this graph's been picked up and moved up 1. Well, what do I see right there? +1. So what I'm hoping you figured out by graphing the next couple in your calculator is that you were able to quickly figure out that this value out back is in fact your median line. Okay, that in fact is your median line right there. And then nothing else of this graph is going to change. Maybe I'll go to pretty black. Okay, it's going to start right here. It's going to end right here. And it's going to go up. There. There. So that graph should look like that. And the next one, my median line's at 2. It's going to start there. It's going to end there. Okay, again, I'm able to draw this so quickly because, one, I've been doing this for way too long, okay? And you'll get really good at this too. So what do I know then? Well, my median line here is at y equals -1. My period is still 2 pi or 6.28 approximately. Okay, neither of them have been shifted, and their amplitudes are both 1. The only thing that's going to change here is that one. These ones are all the same. Okay, so what have we figured out? I'm hoping you were able to tell me that, this is the most important part here, the summary, okay? What I'm hoping you can figure out, when a sinusoidal equation is written in this form, the d value, the letter d, I should maybe call that the parameter, that's maybe a better way to express that, represents the median line. This moves the entire curve up or down d units. Easy peasy. So if I had this, I would say that whole graph is moved up 5. Easy. Okay, there's your first one. And D is always the first thing you find and draw in. I'm begging you. Now, you're going to do the same thing here. We're going to repeat the process, but now on this one, what I'm asking you to look at is what happens when we change this value out front. Okay? Play around with your graphing calculator. Hit pause on the video. Answer the questions. Let's see what you come up with. See you in a minute. Okay, you were playing around with this in your calculator, I hope, and let's go through it together. So first thing I do is I always draw my median line. It's halfway between my max and my min, also known as the average. Even if it's on the x-axis, I draw it. Amplitude, I just count right there, or right there. Remember, amplitude is always positive. So in this one, amplitude is 2. Hey, what's that right there? 2. And now, Period is still 2 pi because I noticed that going from here to here is 2 pi. And it has not been shifted because it starts right here on the midline and the y-axis going up. All right. Well, I'm hoping what you were able to figure out quickly then, right off that first graph, is that whatever this first value is, what's this going to be? It's going to be our amplitude. So I'm just going to draw this next one in quickly. What I know then, if that's a 3, that's going to be my amplitude. It's also known as my vertical stretch, but we only describe it like that in class, never on a test. That's 30-1. And there's my midline, bang. So midline, always draw it in, even if it's the x-axis. Amplitude's 3, 2 pi, no. All right. Last one here, let's see if we can make a rule. Let's go for pretty green. So here's that half I see right there. That's the most important part. So here's what I know. That this one is only going to go up to a half and down a half from my midline. There's my midline or my median line or my average line, whatever makes you happy. So y equals 0, a half, 2 pi, no. All right, so hopefully you were able to fill in the summary here. When a sinusoidal equation is written in this form, blah, 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 the parameter A represents the amplitude. Isn't that convenient? A and A, right? Pure luck. So what this means is the entire curve will rise and fall A units above and below the median line. Other way you might want to say that is how much it varies. If we were talking about an application question, how much my temperature varies from the average. Okay, so we go find the D value first, then we find the A value. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to look at now the B value. So your job on this one, same as the last, you're going to go and tell me what this one does. Now this one's a little bit more difficult, so you're going to have to pause it for a little bit longer and think a little bit more. I'm going to start you out though with the first one. So all of a sudden it says there's this 2 right here. And I go and I look at my information. So again, I draw in my midline, it's right there. And I say, okay, what happened? There's my median line. There's my amplitude, it's 1 still. But then all of a sudden what I really need you to notice here is that the period has changed. Starting from here, well now, this graph, the period goes right there. It's pi, not 2 pi anymore. So how did the 2 affect the 2 pi? All right, hit pause on the video, see if you can figure that out. These graphs will be a little bit trickier to draw. Have fun. Okay, let's see how you did here. So on this next one, I noticed that I've got a B value of 4. What's this do to my graph? Well, what this actually did, if you plug this thing into your calculator, it's going to change your graph. And it's when you graphed it, it probably looked really close together. So watch this. Your graph, it's a bit hard to draw here, but look at this. Probably drew it and you were like, holy cow, what's going on? It actually did this. Like that. It was really crammed in there. If you drew it, right, it looked really crammed in there, like that. Here, I'll even show you. So if you were, again, struggling maybe a little bit with it looked like on your graphing calculator, it's because all of a sudden, what we did was we changed the period so much that it looked crazy. So here, I'm going to graph this one again. And so what I'm going to see when I hit this is I'm going to see so many cycles. See what it did? So it happens more frequently. Some people would describe that as maybe it being compressed. Okay, so what does that mean for my information then? I'm just going to draw back in one cycle. I know it keeps going, but I'm just going to pretend it looks just like that. And I should have went a little bit lower. Okay, so y equals 0, amplitude still 1. No, it hasn't been shifted. Okay, now my period is pi over 2. Okay, we need to figure this out still. This is tricky. All right, last one, and then we'll see if we can make a rule together. So now my b value is 1/2. Well, if you actually drop this thing in your calculator, here's what's going to happen. You're not even going to see a full period. It's going to do that. You would have to change your window settings to see it. But I can still figure out the period from that graph. What I know is my period is how long it takes to repeat. Well, that's half a cycle. So guess what? That's going to be half a period. So my period is going to be double 2 pi. It's going to be 4 pi, which is 12.56 or something, I think. So what is the rule here? This is the trickiest one. Maybe some of you have figured it out. It's a little difficult. When a sinusoidal equation is written in the form blah, the letter b changes the length of the period. Okay, we got that figured out. We know that. It expands or compresses horizontally, so it's making it take longer, more frequent or less frequent is another way to say that. Okay, the period. This is really important. Period is 2 pi. That's the original period, isn't it? Right? That's the original period divided by whatever the b value is. Big star there. Good news is that's on my formula sheet. I don't need to memorize it. So if I gave you this equation and I said, what's the period of this graph? Well, the period would be 2 pi divided by 3. All right? So the b value is not the period. The b value helps give the period. All right, that's the trickiest one. Now, we've got one last parameter to figure out. That's the c value. Now, in 30-1, we spend a lot of time working with c. We don't do it. It's not really important in 30-2. The only question I need you to answer is it yes or no? Has it been moved or hasn't it? Well, let's just do this one rather quickly together. Okay, the very first one here, it hasn't been moved. It's starting on, I'm going to write this down, it starts on the y-axis and the median going up. That means it has not been moved. If I look at the next graph, I draw my median line in. Always draw my median line in. There it is. Okay, I go and hunt. Where does this graph start? Well, it starts right here. I highlighted it in blue. So I say to myself, is that on the y-axis? Is that on the y-axis? Not on y-axis. Therefore, it has been moved. Yes. Well, look at how easy this is. Come back up to our equations. Just an x, no c value. Whoa, what do I see right there? There's a c value. So guess what? As soon as we see a c value, this graph will be moved left and right, horizontally. So I notice right here that there's a c value. Guess what? This thing has been moved. The next one, I see a c value. Guess what? This thing has been moved. Ooh, yes, yes. Okay, that's all. I don't actually need you to tell me what that value is. That actually gets pretty complicated pretty fast. The rest of the information is all going to be the same. So the c value. When a sinusoidal equation is written in the form blah, 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 the c value means the entire curve will move left or right, horizontally. That is the starting point moves if there is a C value. That's it. Okay, if you take 30-1, that will definitely get a heck of a lot more complicated, but for now, good enough. Okay, next page, user summary. Here's all the things you need to know. I've done these in order of how I want you to find them. D value first, then amplitude. Now, I just count on my fingers for these things, but again, if you really want a formula, D is max plus min divided by 2. Then I find my amplitude. If you really want a formula, again, I just count on my fingers. I'm good at it. I've been doing it since I was a little guy. Max minus min. See, I put the absolute value bars there just to remind me that it's always positivo. Okay, period relates to the B value, but they're not the same. I can reverse the formula if I had to find the B value. And then I find the D value, or the C value, the horizontal shift, if it moves left or right. So here are my tips for analyzing a graph. Draw the midline first. I've been begging you to do that all day. Amplitude, then find the period, then find the C value. Now I've got this graph right here, which I think shows everything to you. I'm proud of that graph. Oh, it's beautiful. Wish I could print your books in color so you could see my beautiful graphs in color. There she is. Okay. So again, the order in which I'm going to do these things, let's go to, I don't know, green. The first thing I'm going to do, midline, then amplitude, then my period, then my C value. Always. All right, so if I'm going to look at just maybe one quick practice question for you here. So if I give you a graph, let's maybe do the second one. If I give you a graph, here's how I'm going to analyze this thing. First thing I'm going to do is draw the midline in. Bang. I know that's my D value. Then I find my amplitude. I count right there. That's my amplitude. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my period. So my period is how long it takes to repeat. So there to there. Well, that's 2 pi. So B is 2 pi over P, which is 2 pi over 2 pi, which is 1. I should reverse these things in your books. And then finally, has this thing been shifted left or right? Well, right there. I'm on the y-axis and the midline going up. No, has not been shifted. Y-axis, check. Median line, check. Going up, check. Means I have not been moved. Now go and look, I even gave you the equation here. Everything verifies. This means here C is 0. There's everything I need. B is 1. There's really a 1 right there. Look at that. There she is, my friends. Have fun with that one. Try to use your brains more than your calculator on this one. Use your calculator as a check. See you next time.